In 2012, I sat in my blue 2009 Dodge Stratus, drinking a fifth of alcohol while I was high off of oxycodone. And I lit a blunt and I put it in my mouth. And I said goodbye to everyone I love. I had just come off a back injury, which took my dream of playing in the NFL away. I was calling my girlfriend, who I had dated for 4.5 years. And in the middle of me trying to find out where she was, I discovered that she had left me and got engaged to another man. And anytime something traumatic happens in our life, it touches on our deepest insecurity. And my deepest insecurity is that I was not valuable without sports, is that I didn't have any other skill set to offer the world except for my ability to run fast and jump high. And when she left me, it validated that insecurity. And so I figured, since sports was over, that meant my life was over. So I got mad. I put the car in drive and I started racing 75 miles an hour down a 35-mile-per-hour road. And I was gonna drive off onto an intersecting highway. And as I'm driving, I hear this still small voice speak to my heart and say, "Don't quit on your future." And I slowed down. And my mother called me and convinced me to go to the psychiatric unit. And it was at this psychiatric unit that I realized something, that through a series of events, that what I was really afraid of was to share my story. You see, while I was sitting in that car, I had people tell me prior moments in my life that you're a great leader, you're a great speaker, you should share your story. But it doesn't matter if someone else believes in you if you don't believe in yourself. And although that was playing in the back of my mind, I still so desperately wanted to die, because I would rather had died than to get in front of people and speak. And you know, I'm just like the majority of Americans. You know, research shows that fear of public speaking is Americans' number one fear over, listen to this, heights, death, and creepy, crawly animals. And I asked myself why. And I realized that the reason why I and many others are so afraid to speak in public is because public speaking is like psychologically undressing in front of others. And I knew I had to learn to live naked. So I said, I'm gonna try this thing. I'm gonna stop running and I'm gonna start speaking. And so I tried and I failed and I blinked and I stretched myself and I embarrassed myself and I tried to push my limits and impress people with my rhetoric and my words and my intellect. And I was always still so anxious, so afraid, and I was trying to overcompensate and speak too fast to impress others, because this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to entertain. And one day, I'm speaking, and after the event, there's a line of people that kind of come up and say thank you. And I had learned that vulnerability is the key to people's heart. And so I shared some things like I shared with you. And this 14-year-old girl walks up to me at the end of my talk, and she's sort of shaking, and she's like, "Sir, my parents dropped me off at an orphanage last year, and they never said why." She lifted up her wristband, and you could see the cuts on her wrist. She says, "I've been cutting myself since then to deal with the pain, and no one knew. But you're the first person to know because there was something about hearing your story that gave me the strength to come out about mine." I collapsed. I embraced her, I hugged her, and I told her she was valuable. The beauty in this moment is that there just so happened to be another person at the event who had been to 14 different orphanages and was able to sit with this young lady for like hours and just talk to her and connect with her. But it was that moment that everything shifted for me, and I realized that the goal was not to be impressive, and the goal was not even necessarily to be vulnerable, but the goal of speaking was to be helpful. And so I said, I can do that. I can be helpful. And so I invested in mentors. I learned from Eric Thomas and Les Brown and Lisa Nichols and Grant Baldwin and Pete Vargas. And I tried and I got feedback and I watched the film. And we know we don't like watching the film, but I did that. And I grew and became a 2-time TEDx speaker and have spoken on some of the largest podcasts in the world. And now I help speakers overcome their fear and share their story. And when you know what I've learned, that when they share their story, they're helpful. And it's this ripple effect that a rising tide raises all ships. And so I say all that to let you know that if you've ever been afraid of speaking in public like the majority of Americans, you are not alone. That as silly as it sounds, that people would rather die than to get in front of people and speak, that's exactly what I did. And what if you didn't have to be impressive? What if the goal wasn't even for you to be so vulnerable? But what if the objective of you standing in front of people, sharing your story, was just to be helpful? So my question to you is, who in here wants to be helpful?